Because we have breaking news out of Scottsdale.
We do, and I was just looking at the map here. It's an officer-involved shooting in a Safeway parking lot near Hayden and Chaparral. So let's go ahead and look at that. A couple of things get your attention right away when you hear officer-involved shooting. Obviously, you want to make sure the officer's okay. The first information we have is there are no officers injured. The second thing that makes your ears perk up right away with this story is Safeway parking lot.
Right.
Because you're dealing with what could be dozens of people in that parking lot at any given time,
Sure.
and moms and kids and innocent bystanders. So if you look at this scene, it's tough to know exactly what happened, but if you, I worked in the helicopter quite a bit, so what you try to do is look at clues and see what you have. So here's what I'm looking at. What I see are undercover police vehicles. To the left of your screen, you see an undercover gray pickup with the lights flashing, and you can tell the way the lights are flashing, that's probably a police vehicle. To the right, you see we're zooming out now a little bit. You see another vehicle which looks like it's also a police vehicle, black SUV. And it looks like what they were trying to do at that point was keep somebody from leaving that parking space. So as we go a little bit closer here, I can look at it again. And right behind the white Mercedes vehicle, it looks like there's another police vehicle that was behind it. I mean, again, now this is just something I'm looking at. I don't have any information to tell me about what was happening. But it looks like probably that white vehicle was surrounded by undercover police officers. And when that person tried to get out of the vehicle or tried to leave, something happened and that person was probably shot. To the right of the white Mercedes SUV, you see the telltale signs of a trauma scene. And that would be, now it's being blocked right now by this tree.
Right.
But that would basically be if once EMTs, emergency medical technicians got there, were working on somebody, they strip off the clothing, they're working with a bunch of different objects that have wrappers on it. So that right there, that shows me that somebody was injured probably right there, and they were treating them right there on the scene. The victim or the suspect, we don't see anywhere around.
There's so many vehicles that are parked in a very not traditionally parked way, and we don't know anything at this point. Why?
No, but I mean, now, when would you ever have this situation in a parking lot?
Right.
Without, and again, this is just me now saying, okay, I've been in the news business for a while and I've seen these things. I would say the gray pickup at the top, the light gray minivan at the back, and this black SUV are probably undercover police vehicles.
Oh, okay.
They probably were following that white Mercedes for whatever reason, or knew it was there.
Okay.
And were sitting there and waiting for when that person came out in their car, and they decided, we're going to take that person right now.
Got it.
And that person didn't want to be taken.
And that's when when it turned into a shooting.
Well, and we don't know what happened there.
Right.
But there's just, I just did a story last week on police shootings and reacting, and those officers now, if they feel that they're in fear for their lives, if they see a weapon, if they feel like this person's going to be coming after them, they are going to shoot.
Right.
And so that's what happened here. And we saw that video released, I guess it was yesterday, the Flagstaff police officer. I've been off for a couple of days.
I think, yeah, 2 days
yesterday,
ago.
2 days ago, where it's just that quick,
I know.
And people want to second guess, did this police officer do the right thing or not? It's really hard to get inside that police officer's head and see what's going on. I mean, many shootings probably are not justified.
Right.
But very
some
many
are.
Yeah, I would say the vast majority probably are. So we don't know exactly what we're dealing with here. Again, this is Hayden and Chaparral, a Safeway parking lot, and we have a officer-involved shooting.
Right. I'm going to pull up Google Maps right now for our viewers so they can have a, in case they aren't familiar with the area. Let me pull it up so they...
Look at the number of the officers they've got here. I'm trying to see if I can... those aren't your typical officers. And I don't even know, maybe they're workers. It's hard for me to see. I'm sure many of them are police officers, but you don't see any uniforms there. Maybe just a couple. So if this is some big undercover task force, if those are all detectives who have already made their way to the scene.
Sure.
But again, there's another good look at the scene. And I don't know. It's tough to see if there are bullet holes in anything. But it looks like they really did box him in. And then they've got that. You see the red police tape. So they've got that police tape
so that
all
whole
the way
section.
around. Yeah. So, anybody who's got a car in there, they're not going to be able to go in there and get their car.
Right.
Because there's going to be evidence that's going to be looked at.
Mm-hmm.
I don't see any bullet holes in the white Mercedes minivan, but if I had my guess again, whoever was shot was driving that white Mercedes minivan, just because of the way they've got them boxed in.
Right.
And you can see by the little Ford Explorer or whatever that is, an Escape right above with the red and blue front lights. That's an undercover police vehicle. And I would also guess that the truck you see right there, the kind of, I don't even know what color that is, goldish, mauve. What would you call that? I'm bad with colors.
That one right there?
The gold one, gray, gold. That was also an undercover vehicle. And then the light gray looks almost white in this picture behind it is also a police vehicle.
And to just give people, our viewers, an idea of where, I pulled up our Google Maps image. I can pull up right here. I'm going to pull that up just so people have an idea of where relative to the rest of the valley it is.
Yeah, that's the heart of Scottsdale.
Right.
A very populated area.
Right.
Looks like it's right along the Indian Bend Wash there.
Mm-hmm. And we can even do a
why don't you go and do a street
view, right. So this is the intersection. Traditionally,
It's not there.
It's probably
Not there. Everything's pretty set back. I would imagine it's in that one right there. That looks like it's the intersection.
Right,
Yeah, go down
it is,
Hayden a little
actually.
bit. Is that it?
I think so, yeah. Like we have to go this way though. I can never control street view. It's hard, but I'm trying.
Yeah.
I see a there. It's probably in this shopping center right here.
Yeah, that's the Safeway right there.
Yeah.
You can see it. So it's set back a ways.
On the-
You're probably not going to get bullets going out onto Hayden or Chaparral, but
Right.
it's right there.
Northwest corner
Yeah.
of the intersection. So
Let's go back to the scene.
Okay.
They've got a crime scene. They're called crime scene section, is what they're called. So they've obviously got a whole scene of technicians out there. They're going to photograph.
Right.
They're going to search for bullet casings. They're going to basically totally document this scene, because if this ends up in a court of law, we don't know
Right.
if this person's dead.
Right.
Okay, so it's possible if this suspect has been killed.
And they need to get all the information.
Right, because there's going to be an investigation,
Of
which there
course.
always is with all these shootings. And if this suspect is alive and he came after officers, that's going to be attempted murder of a police officer.
Right.
So they're going to have to go into court with all of this information.
Right.
So the stuff they're gathering right now will show up in a courtroom a year from now. And they'll go through and say, okay, here's the picture of the scene, here's the car, here's this, here's that, along with all the witness testimony. So this next phase is very important, and my guess is it'll be several hours that they'll be out here with this stuff just like this. And it really gives me that feeling when you look at the number right there again, all those people standing up there, it looks like about 24 to me, or close to it. To you,
Right.
maybe 20, 25. And so those are all the investigators who are going to be pouring over the scene.
That whole group is just investigators, not
I would imagine. No, not the way they're
Okay.
standing. The more I watch them, they're not going to stand in a circle like that. And
Sure.
so, there's probably a lieutenant out there or somebody who's in charge of that whole group who's saying, all right, this is what we're going to do going forward.
Right.
So and so, your group, you're taking this. So and so, your group, you're taking this. You're looking at and talking to these witnesses. You're looking at all the cars. You're going to be pulling bullet casings. You're going to be doing trajectories and vectors and all those things. And so they break the whole thing down
right.
to look at it. And if you're just joining us again, this is an officer-involved shooting, Hayden and Chaparral. No officer hurt in this. Somebody was injured. We call them a suspect because that's all you can think
at
is,
this point,
yes.
yeah.
And they were driving what looks like a white Mercedes SUV. And it doesn't look like any bystanders were injured either. But there's a large contingent of police officers and investigators out there at the scene looking at what's going on.
Right, and it looks like we just lost the chopper video. I don't know if we're going to get it back or not, but that was the scene
Right.
of the Safeway shooting. Well, not in Safeway, but the parking lot.
And again, just a couple of thoughts on this. I think that we're very fortunate when bullets are flying in a crowded parking lot that nobody else was hurt.
Right.
I can't imagine that is what the officers wanted to have happen.
No.
They decided for whatever reason to take this person down in that parking lot.
Sure.
And maybe it was just an opportunity. Maybe that person had just committed a serious crime there
Right.
at that location. But what I would guess is this is somebody they've been following for a while, because these weren't marked units around this person in the parking lot. These were undercover units, and there were several of them. So it was coordinated.
Right.
That doesn't happen in 5 minutes.
Right, no, there was a planned attack. And I think one of the points you made that was so interesting is just the timing of everything. You know, like, for example, your package from last week.
Right.
Where it went into, you know, a simulated situation that would have been an officer-involved shooting.
Right.
And then, again, the release of the body camera footage from earlier this week.
Right. You know, and I didn't watch that, and I've been off the last few days, so I tend to stay away from news for the most part. So I caught up a little bit yesterday. But when I watched that tape of, it was a very young Flagstaff police officers to catch people up, who went up and knocked on somebody's door because there was some sort of a domestic violence incident. And he's talking to the guy, and out of the blue, the guy, he didn't seem, I shouldn't say normal, but he didn't seem like he was a threat. And out of the blue, he pulls a gun out of his pocket and shoots the police officer.
And the officer asked him if he had any weapons on him, and he
said
away. No.
Right.
And then
it just happens.
It was so quick.
So, and then the story that I did last week that a lot of people have seen, because it's kind of getting passed around, I think it's kind of, struck a nerve with a lot of people, is the very first scenario was a guy who was looking in cars, and as a quote-unquote police officer, myself and a guy who protested down the street against police shootings, both walked up to him saying, "Hey, what are you doing?" And he's like, nothing, leave me alone. Goes back behind a car, pulls out a gun and shoots us.
Right, it's just this,
that's what it
1
was.
second.
It's exactly what it was.
And it's just hard because, you know, on the flip side, you read these stories, you see it, you cover it. You know, for example, where Officer Stewart got shot and killed. And it's that quick, and then you have the other people that are protesting officers' use of a gun. It's just one of those things where it's like, both people have both sides have their arguments, but I don't think anyone wins.
No, I have a hard time believing, and again, this is getting into my own personal opinion now, that the vast majority, is 99.9% of people who wear a badge, men and women, go out to hurt or kill somebody when they go to work that day. I just don't do that.
No, they don't.
I don't believe that.
Right.
Maybe there is some random person who does, but I don't, you know.
Right.
And until anybody can walk a mile in these officers' shoes and know exactly what they're up against on a daily basis, it's hard to second guess what they're doing. They do make mistakes.
Sure.
Absolutely, they make mistakes. But I think a lot of those mistakes are made in the heat of the moment.
Right.
And in the confusion of the moment.
Right. And then there's so many people who end up getting killed because they don't do something as simple as just cooperate with police, which is what that protester that
Reverend
also did.
Reverend
Mop. He did the same use of force training that you went through. He said the same thing, just comply. And it could really prevent a lot of these, so-called tragedies.
Right. I mean, you would think that if the guy in Flagstaff would have said, yeah, as a matter of fact, I do have a gun on me right now. I mean, who knows if he brought that gun out to shoot him. If it was there, the officer would have gotten him and got him in a position and gotten the gun away. He wouldn't have died. That also being said, the gentleman who was shot where Reverend Maupin was walking down the street, and he was an unarmed man in Phoenix, the police officer saying he had his hand hidden and he saw him reaching for something. He thought it was a gun.
Right.
And they kept telling him, pull your hand out, pull your hand out. He wouldn't pull his hand out. So maybe if he would have pulled his hands out, he'd still be alive.
Right.
So you comply. If there's some sort of a brutality down the line, bring it up with the judge.
Right.
There'll be an investigation. At the same time, I also have heard from a lot of people who feel like they've been harassed by police since they were children.
Right.
Something that I've never gone through. Mm-hmm. Just from my socioeconomic background and my race, you may say, whatever. I've never experienced that, but I know a lot of people have. So maybe they have a different opinion.
So where they're just constantly on the defense whenever there's a police encounter.
Right. They see police officers as the enemy.
Right. I mean, for example, a separate situation, the Eric Garner situation in New York, where it's like we saw that video and you hear Garner on the video, I'm paraphrasing here, but like, why are you guys always after me? Why are you harassing me? This and that. And whether that's true or not, it's the mentality of some people where they just feel like they're constantly being watched, attacked, whatever, for no reason.
Well, and you hear people, I mean, I've seen stories where, just for instance, an African-American woman or something will say, hey, I go in to shop at a store, and all of a sudden I've got 3 people watching me as I'm walking through the aisles, as opposed to the white woman over there who walks through and nobody pays attention to her.
Right.
So she feels like she's being, discriminated against in a way by people being suspicious of her just because of her skin color.
And beyond the skin color, I do feel like there is a sort of prejudice. I get even just the way you dress and the way you appear and the way you present yourself. I mean, and maybe it's just my own mind and perception, but I feel like I'm treated a completely different way when I'm actually dressed nicely and hair, makeup, whatever, versus just like sweats, hair up. You know what I mean? Where it's like you're never, whatever. It's like they perceive you. Maybe that's where socioeconomic class plays a role more so than race.
Oh, yeah.
Where it's like you get treated differently based on how other people perceive you to be.
Right. Then if you throw race into it, maybe it's doubly bad.
Exactly.
The picture's back up. You want to go back to that?
Yep. Let's go.
So we got our Skyfox situation taken care of here, and here we are back. Officer-involved shooting, if you're just joining us, Hayden and Chaparral, in a Safeway parking lot. And that area you see taped off with your red tape is where the shooting occurred. We've kind of, in the very top of your screen right there, you're seeing a group of officers. We're guessing about 24. And my belief is they're getting ready to go and either secure the scene or find out exactly what happened here. And maybe, this is something we haven't even talked about. Possibly there's somebody else involved. They may go after and get them. So we don't know.
We have no details as to what actually led to this right now.
No.
We know there's an officer-involved shooting. No officers injured. Safeway.
Right.
Scottsdale.
Right. Mm-hmm. And we think it's just one person who was shot by officers.
Right.
And by looking at it, we're thinking that it was this white SUV, a Mercedes SUV in the middle, that was probably carrying the suspect or the person who was shot. And then surrounding that SUV, you've got a truck and a minivan and another small SUV, and those all appear to be police units. That looks like they tried to pin that person in, and my guess would be that the person didn't want to be pinned in.
Sure.
And tried to get away.
Right, some sort of struggle or something.
Yeah, and you would hope that it's not somebody just jumping out of a car and running away.
Right.
That it'd be somebody jumping out of a car with a gun.
Right.
And having some
Someone
sort.
armed.
Right. Now, it's also, we've seen many times, and the command vehicle's been brought out there. That command vehicle is full of basically everything they need to conduct a large investigation, communications, crime kits. It's set up basically where the top-ranking field people for Scottsdale Police will be inside that and working it. And so what they'll be able to do is, you see that large group of investigators at the top of your screen here. So the commanders of this incident will now go inside. They'll be able to have all their computer terminals and all the things they need to start gathering that evidence.
And you're saying something like this will take hours now.
Oh, yeah. Especially if this is going to go fatal.
Right.
And we have no indication it is.
But they need to get all the evidence just in case it does, right?
Yes. And like I said, for both sides.
Right, even if it doesn't,
right.
The possible.
Right. So we've been looking at all these people saying, hey, look, a lot of these police shootings are unjustified. At the same time, if this person did get out of this minivan and go after police with a gun or try to ram them with this minivan. Now, the minivan itself can also be considered a deadly weapon. So if they were trying to ram people, the officers, we've seen it many times, are justified, according to our laws, to shoot the person who's driving if they're using that vehicle to hit them or go after them.
Right.
That is a justified shooting, according to the way the law is written.
Right, and looking at the position of the cars, does it seem that the vehicle was entering that spot and that's when officers came in and swooped it?
I would say no.
The individual maybe was returning to their car and that's when officers...
Yeah, that's the feeling I have.
Okay.
Only
like they were reversing.
That's what it looks like to me. It's like they were reversing out and rammed into that small minivan.
Okay.
That would be my thought.
Got it.
But, you bring up a good point. It's funny, I didn't even think of that.
They could be parking and then, like you said, they could have used their vehicle as a weapon, maybe ramming back into the other vehicles behind them. I don't know.
Although, here's what I will say, and I'm teaching my daughter how to drive right now. So we're into parking a lot. But look how straight this person is coming out of that parking if you were pulling into a parking space, wouldn't you be at more of an angle?
You're right, so they're reversing.
I would almost think they're reversing straight out and then you can make their turn.
Sure.
Whereas if you're coming in, you'd still be at more of an angle.
Yeah, you're right.
So that to me looks like they're reversing out.
I hope your daughter's watching.
Yeah, you don't want to see her part. Yes. She brags about, oh, look, Dad, I'm almost the same from, same size from each side. Left the same amount of space. But no, it's...
you can drive for decades and still not get that perfect center parking.
I know. But, you wonder now as we're looking at this, there's, let me see, 1, 2, 3, 4, probably 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, probably about another 15 or 16 cars inside this roped off area, and they can't get to their cars.
Right, they need to phone a friend or phone an Uber to get out.
And they're going to be stuck there.
Right.
And I can't imagine that this Safeway is a great place to go right now, so that business is being impacted.
Yeah. Anyone even like pulling into the parking lot, seeing a scene like this, might just turn around.
Right. So I don't need that kind of hassle. Although with this many officers here, they're probably thinking it's at least safe. Right.
And some people are curious.
The gentleman you see, the larger gentleman in the blue, he appears to be holding a bunch of cameras. I would imagine that's like their main photographer who's getting ready to go in there and take a bunch of pictures.
Right.
I don't see our crews there yet, or maybe they're just in a different part of the frame. But
I think as soon as our crews get there, they'll be able to send us a live signal and be able to take their live shot from the ground, I think.
Yeah, it's interesting because they went all the way with that tape to the very right of your screen. They're almost all the way up. Is that a bank? No, it's a Baker Brothers. Is that flooring? Is it Baker Brothers flooring?
Let me look up.
But all the way up into almost to that Baker Brothers. And then you can see there's actually 2 SUVs there. But that back dark, it looks like a 4Runner or maybe an Xterra or something.
Yep, Baker Brothers area rugs and flooring.
Oh, okay. You almost wonder if that other one wasn't even involved and kind of got stuck in the whole thing.
Here's a better view of that person. There.
Yeah, so they're basically, you want to put that up?
Yeah, let me switch over. So this is the Google Street View that we have.
Yeah, and that Baker Brothers we're looking at right there, and if you went on the other side of that Baker Brothers.
That's where the whole scene is.
Yeah. Yeah, it's right on the other side of that.
So then we have the Safeway Park. So everyone's, right on the other side of this building.
Yeah.
So it seems like it's more this Baker Brothers parking lot that happens to be in the Safeway complex.
Right.
Where
but
the scene is, at least.
You always talk about the anchor store.
Of course. I guess the dominant scene, I guess the cars that are most affected are the ones that parked by Baker Brothers.
Right.
Okay, let's go back to the scene.
Well, they've moved into the minivan, which I assumed was a police minivan, right behind what we've assumed to be the suspect minivan, which is the white Mercedes. So that's interesting. I wonder why they're in that minivan first. Mm-hmm. What they'd be looking for. Because it appears that was in a spot behind and came in to block that other car in.
Right. Interesting.
Okay, so now they're moving. These 2 investigators moving to the truck. Yeah, see, that tells me this is their truck too.
Oh,
see,
right.
these are all their vehicles.
You called it. You knew.
Well, we guessed. Sometimes you get lucky. But yeah, I think these are all their vehicles.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because it looks like they have the lights on.
Yeah, there's a light in there.
Right.
That you can just now see that blue light. I never saw the blue light before. It's like regulars.
Right.
Yeah, so if we could draw up our, totally unsubstantiated, as I always talk about, we need to get like something down below. It says totally unsubstantiated, but here's my guess.
Uh-huh.
My guess is this is some sort of a fugitive task force.
Right.
Or some sort of a task force that's been following somebody for a long time. Obviously, this is not somebody who doesn't have means
right. That
or
looks like a Mercedes
stolen.
G-Series.
It's a beautiful, that's probably an
I think
$70,000 or $80,000 vehicle,
not
right?
Not a G-Series, but a Mercedes SUV. I think that's a Mercedes logo in the front of it.
Yeah, it is, for sure. Yeah, it's a Mercedes. And it's got nice rims on it, so, somebody who's making some money doing something, or possibly this was a stolen vehicle.
There's that option, too.
But they got some sort of a tip that this person was in this area, and they're following this person or got a tip, ID'd the person, and just sat there and waited for them to come out of the store. That would be my guess. Or possibly when they were coming in. Now that I look at it, it is a little bit of an angle. Do you see that? It's a little bit of an angle.
So they could have been parking.
I don't know. They could have been parking or coming out. I don't know. And see, now these guys are looking into the trunk, the bed of that truck. They're looking underneath it. They're probably looking for bullet casings. When you shoot a semi-automatic handgun, and most of the officers these days carry Glocks, which is a German-manufactured 9mm handgun. When they shoot, the gas and the force of the bullet itself shoots the top of the gun back, ejects the bullet casing of the round that was just in there, and then the next round goes right back up in. So you don't have to cock a gun, or a revolver, you don't have to spin the revolver. So when you shoot those guns, those bullet casings go flying.
Right.
And the bullet casings will often tell an officer where the shooting started. So they'll look at bullet casings to say, oh, okay, there's 8 bullet casings sitting right here. The guy was standing right here when he was shooting.
Right. I know Jill Monier is on the way. She should be there in about 20 minutes. So I think we're going to get an update from her on our Fox 10 News Now update at 3 p.m. is what I'm being told.
Okay.
So we will have a live update from Jill from the scene in about an hour.
Okay.
So what do you think? It's just going to be this continuous scene for a few hours?
Yeah, absolutely. And the one thing that I think is interesting is they haven't gone near that white SUV yet that we thought was the center of this whole thing. So Jill Monier is going to be out there in a bit. At 3 o'clock, we're going to have an update on this. And when we learn more, we'll get you the info.
That's right. Thanks so much for joining me, Troy.
Yeah, my pleasure. It's interesting to watch this. So, hey, really good news that nobody shopping was hurt and no officers were hurt. Right.
And we don't know the status of the person that was shot yet, but we will get those updates as soon as we get them on Fox 10 News Now. Thanks for joining me, Troy, and viewers, thanks so much for watching. Make sure to tune in to Fox 10 News Now in an hour, 3 p.m. Arizona time. We will have an update on this story as well as many other stories, including the cold case murder that we've been covering for the last couple of days, the recent arrest of Brian Patrick Miller in the 1992 and 1993 murders of 2 women. So we'll have that update and more on the Fox 10 News Now update at 3 p.m. So I will see you guys then. Thanks for watching.